So thank you very much. And it's absolutely so unlikely that I'm standing here. I was 30 years old in 1964 when I was passed an article by someone in the Stanford Symphony Orchestra, by Max Matthews, in which he claimed that the potential of a computer as a source of musical sound was unlimited. And I shared the back row of the orchestra also with a tuba player who was a fine performer, could play the Bach conventions, one voice at a time, of course, on the tuba, which is no small feat. And this was David Poole. And without whom, well, there's Max, the source of the article in Science, November 1963, standing next to a 7094, which was the same computer that we had at the time in the computer center. And there's David Poole, who taught me everything I knew, because my training was altogether in music, knew nothing about a computer, I'd never seen a computer before. And this patient man, and many of you should laugh, because I may be the only person with whom Dave Poole showed patience in all those years. But he rewrote the Max's program that was written in BFAP in music, for the music of the PDP-6 and in assembly language, and then supported music in all the years that he was part of the AI lab until he left to build his Funli machines. The other person with whom to whom I owe a great debt, of course, is Leland Smith, who is here, I believe. And yeah, Leland Smith was my professor of music, composition, and he joined me the second year of my work, or the third year, in 1966, when we moved from Pine Hall in the PDP-1, 7090 to the DC Power Lab. Leland joined me, quickly built a program, SCORE, which was to facilitate the musical input to these synthesis programs, which had a high parametric profile and not particularly musical. So this SCORE program, over the years, evolved into another form, which is musical typography, which is now used by all the major publishers to print music. The attribute that is most important, of course, to a publisher is to preserve the aesthetic detail of their own publishing history, and this is the only program that allows a publisher to do that. So there were many contributors in the course of there we go, of Karma's history. Dorothy Bender, I guess, is Dorothy here? Okay, Kevin Karplus, who is here, I believe, Kevin, who had developed an algorithm that was used widely by David Jaffe in his classic now of the genre, the Silicon Valley Breakdown. If you care about hearing any of the music, these are all on websites. Chris Chafe is now the director, John Gordon. Let me get to the people that Gareth Loy, who is here, who came to Karma as a graduate student knowing only electronic music in its analog form, and quickly was taught by Andy Moorer, who figures prominently in our history. And Gareth built the driving programs for the Samson box that was designed and built by Pete Sampson and friends at Systems Concepts. Then, having finished it, Gareth then made a beautiful, powerful piece called Nakia, which proved that it was actually basically the proof of his programming, and this became our workhorse synthesizer for about 12 years, and we thank Gareth for that. Mike McNabb, is Mike here? Well, Mike did an important bit of work in synthesis of the singing voice, which inspired me to develop the same for the FM synthesis and a number of pieces. Bernard Mongeneau, who is here, and Bernard worked with the music project at various points and directed the, with Earl Schubert, the dissertation of Andy Schloss, who then wrote a beautiful piece, The Towers of Hanoi, which I think was one of the first algorithmic pieces at Karma. Andy Moore, about whom I'll say a little bit more later. Robert Poor, is Robert here? Okay. Tovar was our systems programmer during the Funli years and supported the project, built some powerful programming kind of modules that were added to the basic music programs. And finally, Pete Sampson, Bill Schottstadt, Julia Smith, who was the first engineering appointment in a PhD in a music department in the country, and Patty Wood, who's not here, but I hope is watching, who was our administrator, having decided to go with music rather than computer science. And this is a picture, 1975, when we formed Karma. And that's Leland, of course, then John Gray, who did a great dissertation on timbre that remains a primary reference in the field. Andy Moorer at the console, Lauren Rush, a wonderful composer who wrote a piece, The Little Traveling Music, was the first piece ever to use the idea of structured spectra, which can only be done with a computer. Andy Moorer, a signal processing computer science PhD, did a dissertation in source segregation of musical sources, separating out voices from an acoustic signal, which remains one of the most difficult of problems even today. This is 1975. I know it's the same year because, as the previous, because I'm wearing the same shirt, with Pierre Boulez at the console, Andy Moorer, and Max Matthews to the right. And this, Pierre Boulez formed the Institut de Recherche Musicale Acoustique in Paris, funded heavily by the French government and now still funded heavily, and probably the largest musical research institute in the world. He was very smart. They came with the idea of building analog studios, saw what we were doing, bought a PDP-10, took Andy, and formed IRCAM. This is a concert at the volleyball court with Chris Chafe on the right, Thierry Lancino at the console. Chris Chafe is now the director of Karma and active in the field of remote concerts using internet communication. And this is the AI lab looking at the volleyball court where these concerts were held. That's our current building, the Knoll, above the Tressiter Union on campus. So I'd like to thank Les for his protection over the years, his wisdom, and helping me, shepherding me through the perils of AI lab politics. And I thank John McCarthy, who certainly could not have imagined the musical legacy that he has given it to us when I came knocking at his door in 1964, looking for a few compute cycles. So thank you, John. Thank you.